Well, welcome to another episode of Stockport Grammar School Talks Sport. Today's guest was a cross-country athlete as a schoolboy, progressed on to Stockport Harriers, went on to represent England and Great Britain, and today he's got a real passion for professionalising the running scene in the UK, and he's the man, the genius behind Team New Balance, Manchester. Welcome, Steve Vernon.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, mate. I'm privileged to be on such a brilliant show and what you've been putting together. I've seen some of the guest speakers recently. They've been amazing. So, definitely privileged to be here.
So we'll kick off then. If you just talked a little bit about your background from probably for your school days to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I'm a Stockport boy, so not far away. I went to high school at Hazel Grove High School, and I was mad sportsman. When I got to school, I couldn't believe what sports you could do there. So I tried everything. I remember being in year 7 and I was doing fencing. They had fencing then at Stockport Grammar and at Hazel Grove. And I was doing fencing there, and we got into hockey. I think we were one of the first schools with an AstroTurf, and so played a lot of hockey there. They weren't a big rugby school. Football, basketball, badminton, you name it, I did it. So I was at every after school club because I just loved it. And I wasn't that good, but I wanted to be good, and I wanted to make school teams and play at the best level I could be. And that at that time was representing the school. So, yeah, running is obviously what I'm, I suppose, famous for. But running is something that sort of came a little bit later in terms of specialising in it. And when I was at primary school, I went to Warren Wood in Ofton. I ran in the cross-country leagues that were at Woodbank Park and Brabbins Park in Marple. And I just did that off no training, just because the school sent people, and I was all right at it, just progressed on from there. And when I was playing all these sports at Hazel Grove, it was actually a girl that I quite liked that lived around the corner. She was 13 at the time. I was 13. Said to me, "I'm going to Stockport Harriers tonight. Do you fancy coming?" So I went with her, and and when I arrived there, I met my coach, who was my coach throughout my career, Dave Turnbull, and he recognised me from the primary school days. Yeah. And he said, "Come in my group," and the rest, they say, is history. So Dave Turnbull's also coached Jess Coulson, who is a super famous athlete from Stockport Grammar, and also Ross Millington. Yeah. So a great stable of athletes have come through Dave Turnbull at the Harriers. And I suppose that sort of started my journey, and I just got better and better. And I was, at the beginning, the first couple of years, I never won a race. I was trying to make the county team, and that was a great thing. And then within 2 years, I was running for England schoolboys. It just happened quick, but through a lot of hard work, I was really committed, really disciplined, and listened to everything my coach said. And I suppose lived quite a disciplined life as a teenager, because I knew what was required. I read a lot, I studied a lot, like I say, listened to my coach, and knew what was required to be the best I could possibly be. And that was a lot of hard work.
In terms of coaching, why coaching? Why did you go into that?
It's a funny one. I suppose I was a student of the sport. I loved sports science. I loved PE. I went on to Loughborough University after college to study. At the time, the degree was PE and exercise science. Yeah. And, I love my running, but like I say, I was a student of the sport. I've got that many autobiographies and biographies. I've read about everyone, and I just loved it. And I think I started to learn a lot about coaching. And I used to quiz my coach and ask him about trying things. And he was a great open coach, and would say, "Oh, where have you got that from? That's great. But, let's try this." So I was developing my knowledge the whole way through my running career. And then it got to the point where I started to help people, and people started to come to me and ask me. And, by the time I was 31, 32, I had 2 international athletes, and I was still competing. And then I got to the point where I was 33, and I remember winning the English National Cross Country Championships, which is one of the biggest cross country races in the world. And I won that. And the next day I was going with one of my athletes to the Birmingham Indoor Games, a big televised BBC race, and he was trying to get the world indoor qualifying time. And I remember everyone coming up to me saying, "Well done for yesterday, Steve, brilliant run." And I was trying to focus on him. And that was the day I decided, no, it's too hard to do both. I've got to focus on my athletes now. And I suppose I don't like to say retired, because I still run every day when I'm not injured. But yeah, that was it. I was 33, just won the English national championship for the second time, and I decided, yeah, I was going to focus on coaching, and here I am 7 years later, and I'm coaching a professional team sponsored by New Balance. I'm very lucky, really.
Touching on what we're talking about on this podcast, a little bit about high performance, and you've been involved in high performance through your running days, obviously now into coaching. What does high performance mean to you?
High performance to me is it sounds like a cliche, but being your best. To an individual, it's about being the best you can possibly be. And I think people look at high performance environments and look at the best football clubs in the world, the best running, best athletes and Olympians, but high performance exists in the classroom. High performance exists at any sport you do if you're trying to perform at your best. And so I think high performance depends on what you perceive it as. High performance in my environment, Team New Balance Manchester, is yes about being the best, but if you're looking at it from external point of view, it's trying to get to the Olympic Games, and that's the pinnacle of athletics. But I have really helped my athletes focus on being the best they can be, and then the results will come, and the championships will come, and the vest, etc. Because I think if you're too much focused on, this target that might just seem like a dream, it becomes exhausting. So we break that down into a process, and if you keep breaking your personal best, you're doing really well. And I think those next levels of focusing on the process of getting better over time, and taking chunks off and working towards intermediate goals, I think that's a lot easier to manage, to achieve, and still have that huge lofty goal at the end, and still dream. I'd say never put limits on yourself, no matter who you are, because I know many an athlete that never ran for England or Great Britain until they were in the 20s and then went to Olympics, where I know of others that were running schoolboys England and never made it after they were 18 because they didn't continue to keep working on it and keep focusing on being the best version of themselves. So high performance to me is there's two ways of looking at it. Looking at it from internally and being the best you can be, and then externally we see this high performance as the pinnacle of sport.
Yeah, no, definitely. That really resonates, actually, setting goals step by step and trying to get better every day, working towards that big goal. That's so important. And then as a coach, how do you ensure your athletes at Team New Balance Manchester achieve high performance? What sort of things do you do specifically?
Well, I think one thing's about training is everyone can train hard. Everyone can go out there and bust the gut, but we also focus on all the things in between, and recovery is a massive part of what we do. Endurance running is a lot of miles. You've got athletes running up to 120 miles a week, some of the marathon guys, and the intensity on the body and the pounding on the body is very different than a lot of other sports where you may not be on your feet for as long. So that's important. And to be the best it can be, a big part of what we do is focusing on recovery, because if you don't recover, you don't adapt.
Yeah.
And you've got to recover to the workload you're doing, and to then adapt and absorb. And, I think you can reflect that right back to even revising for exams. That you can exhaust yourself by doing 10 hours a day,
Yeah.
and you're almost too tired to absorb the information, and breaking it down, whatever works best for you, into chunks where you're doing some real intense bits of revision, but also freeing the mind and decluttering it to then go back. So that's a big part of what we do. But also we create environment here, and the Athlete House in Marple. We have 5 foreign athletes live there from, we've got many internationals, Swiss, Swedish, we've got Irish, we've got Netherlands, and it's a really interesting team. But we focus on providing them with an environment where, everything is there for them. There's a gym in the house, and that's especially important during lockdown. They've got easy access to the running trails, literally out the door. You're on the canal or the Middleward Way. There's a train station there for those that don't have a car. Everything is easy and a simple life to be. And to be successful in long distance running, you have to have a very almost monistic life, in terms of everything is just focused on training, recovery, eating, fueling up well. So yeah, the high performance environment. To add to that, we've got nutritionists involved, physiologists, psychologists, all the things that add towards being the best you can be. And these little marginal gains of segments of things we bring in from physical therapists as well to the weights we do. It's all part of the bigger picture. So yeah, it's a simple sport, running, because a lot of it is 90% of it is just getting out the door and logging the miles. But the real intense work takes a lot out of them, and that has to be really focused and specialized for them.
Yeah, and it's trying to create as a coach that no excuse environment for them, isn't it? And
Yeah.
No.
And that's exactly what we've done. There's no reason why, if you put the work in and you can't come away from this and improve, you know.
No, good. And then on your journey, you have highs and lows. Have you got any setbacks that have occurred in your journey, and what did you do to overcome them?
Oh, millions of setbacks. It's sport's cruel, especially at the highest levels of sport, because it's so intense, and especially when it's your life, your total focus. For a lot of young athletes, a bad race can really hit them hard. But you know, I had surgeries. I had 3 surgeries during my running career, which were real setbacks. But I was very lucky to have a good family environment around me and to support me, good teammates. I was a sponsored athlete with Nike at the time, but I wasn't in a professional group. I was down at the Harriers, and I had a great coach that communicate with me well and keep my spirits high. But also myself as an individual, I didn't like feeling rubbish, especially when I was injured, or so I would bounce back quickly. I wouldn't sulk. I wouldn't, feel sorry for myself. If I was injured, I'd think to myself, right, I'd give myself a few hours to, absorb the news from a physio or a doctor. And then I'd go and cross train hard. I'd get on the spin bike. I'd get in the gym. I'd get in the pool. I mean, I've done, ran with an aqua jogging belt around my waist and ran in the pool with kids jumping on me and God knows what, and I was very focused on saying, well, right, I don't like the feeling of feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to turn this into a positive. So if I had, a foot injury, I would make sure I'd get my foot as strong as it could be so it wouldn't happen again. I'd go and work just as hard and cross training. I'd have a plan. I'd have a time frame and say, right, this setback, how long is it going to last? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? And have a plan. And the goal at the end to get back running was something I then looked forward to rather than counting down the days. So I think dealing with setbacks is, getting the facts, getting the information through, accepting that's the position you're in, and then working with, teammates, friends, whoever, to feel positive again. And I think that's very important, during this time with COVID-19, because, people haven't been able to formulate plans because we've been waiting for when does this end and when we'll be able to play sport again. And I think for my athletes, just focusing on things in day to day that we can do, little things in training that we can improve, and also for me as a coach, making things exciting. And this is what happened when I had setbacks: is changing what we do, changing where they run, changing where we do hill sprint, changing where and trying to do just little things all the time to keep it inspiring, keep you motivated, and keep the enjoyment there.
Yeah, no, good. Again, you touched upon obviously specialist time. I guess it's quite similar for us as teachers and you as a coach, that obviously the athletes are training towards Tokyo Olympics, and there's an unknown factor there whether it will happen or not. And obviously the examination years at the moment, GCSEs are being cancelled. They're not. They are. And what advice have you got about that unknown situation and how to keep people motivated and focused for that?
Yeah, it's really challenging times, and I think for me in particular with my group, is when the Olympics got cancelled last year, it hit them really, really hard. But one of the things I said, well, I turned it into a positive and said we've got an extra year to prepare, and we'll just we've got a year to get stronger, a year to get faster, and that was hard for people to see, but also goals along the way, and like I said, is you're looking at, yes, we've got another year now to prepare, but a year is a long time. So what we did, we focused on working on our weaknesses. Yeah. And, and I said, this is a great opportunity to do this, and it might be with one athlete, improve their speed or power. With another athlete, it might be to improve their specific endurance towards the marathon. So I think that's how we did it. And, but also I spoke to the athletes and thought, what can you do in this year outside of running to improve yourselves. And some of them, they're in the 20s, have done extra studies. Some of them got little bits of part-time jobs where they've been able to do stuff online. Some of them have done some great creative stuff in terms of, working, with their sponsors to provide strength and conditioning and online interviews to motivate others and inspire others. And I think that's the great thing about this is we've used technology like this that we're doing today, you and I, to hopefully give my story across to people. And hopefully, if just one person gets inspired by this journey that I've had or gets motivated, then that's a success. And, one thing I really, know with people is I said to my athletes, listen, motivation is going to go up and down. There's no doubt about that. And that's normal. When it's pouring with rain outside, motivation isn't what gets you out the door. It's commitment that gets you out the door. And I said, you just got to really work on your commitment this year and be committed to it. I don't expect you to be whistling down the street, happy every single day, because you know what? Some days you wake up and you think, I don't know why I feel rubbish today, but I do. And it's commitment from anything in life to turning on your laptop to attend the Zoom meetings, to going out the door running and, really working on being committed, because that's what will produce the results in the long run is that commitment. And, I know motivation's a great thing, but we all know motivation has been the toughest thing ever this year. So we really work on commitment. One of the things I've done a lot of is send people quotes. So every week I have a weekly email to where we're training, where we're meeting, etc. And just always hit them with an inspiring quote or something that'll just lift them a little bit. And I love that type of thing. And I think my athletes, it's been going on, not just during lockdown. It's been going on since the start of the team 4 years ago, and I've done one a week for 4 and a bit years. So to avoid duplicates is tough. Trust me, when you're looking at the sporting quotes and bits of wisdom. But yeah, it accepting. I think the biggest thing is accepting that it's not going to be easy. We're all suffering right now, but what makes you feel better. And as a person, is that connecting with friends? Is it, for people that are not able to access their normal sports? Is it going for a jog? Is it doing a bit of fitness? And, something that just makes you feel that little bit happy over. Grab hold of that, because that gives you energy. And just get yourself some energy each day from whatever that needs to be. And, my mum has a dog, and I borrowed the dog the other week because the dog I enjoy. I haven't got my own dog, I haven't got the time, but it's a big fat chocolate Labrador that's just full of life. And you think, well, the dogs don't know it's a global pandemic, do they? And they're still smiling and wagging the tail. So little things like that for me, and just finding something. And also, I love reading, and I've tried to really read a lot more this lockdown, and that's been challenging because I've actually been as busy as ever because communication's taken more time and not got to see all my athletes all the time. So yeah, just finding something that so you feel that you've done something each day, a sense of achievement, a sense of reward for yourself.
And then on the flip side, you've had many accomplishments. Which one are you most proud of, and why?
It's really tough, this, because I've been asked this a number of times, and they sometimes change. I mean, as an individual athlete, the English National Cross Country Championships is a famous race, and I won 8 individual medals over a 9-year period in that race. So I was never worse than 3rd position, and that's a record. Nobody had ever done that. So that was a really good record to achieve as an individual. I think that probably is my proudest, because it just showed consistency over time. But as a coach, I've had an athlete that's won European medals and gone to be a world finalist, and that might, on the outside, seem like my greatest achievement as a coach. But I think, when I look back, there's a few where, Ross Millington, that was the first athlete I got to the Olympics in 2016. But also I've got athletes that might not be superstars, they're still international athletes. But, I coach a guy called Andy Davies, who's he's 41 now, and he last year broke the British veteran record for the marathon. He ran 2 hours 14, and he was a semi-pro footballer still at 33 years of age. He always did a bit of running. He always had a talent for running, and he'd done a few marathons in the off season, in the summers, and he has just gone from strength to strength. And he won't mind me saying this, that he wasn't the freak of talent as a junior. He wasn't this superstar, but he's now the British record holder, and he's been to a World Championships, 2 Commonwealth Games, European and World Mountain Running Championships, and he's had nearly an 8-year, 9-year international running career, and he's still in his 41. And I think people look at that's probably for me a real coaching achievement, bringing somebody from completely different sport to now being a record holder.
What are Steve Vernon's 3 non-negotiable behaviours that you'd expect from yourself or anybody you come into contact with?
Attitude. I really bring in a positive attitude, no matter what. You might have had a bad day and come into training, bring some positivity and don't drag others down. So that's something I don't like people being late. I don't mind a minute or two because of traffic or, things like snow and stuff, but I hate people being late. That's really, really annoys me. And people know that. So they're very they're very rarely late. And I think the other one is probably that commitment. I don't like people to come back to me and say, oh, this happened, or, why did it not go well? If you're not committed to this journey and being your best, Team New Balance Manchester is about trying to be the best you can be. And I think commitment is a huge, huge part of that. So attitude, time management and commitment.
No, good 3. I like those 3. And then if Steve Vernon could go back to being a 12-year-old boy, knowing what he knows now, what advice would you give yourself?
Do you know what? You hear about people saying, giving that message of, this sounds really dramatic, but maybe on their deathbed about smiling, being positive, enjoy every single day. And that's not realistic. I think it's really tough. No matter who you are, it's hard some days to be positive. But one thing I would say is, and I learned this from Steve Peters, who is a psychiatrist but works with some famous sports people, and he talks about that message of the constant battle, and he has a theory called the chimp paradox that you may know of, and if you haven't, you should read about it. But I think life is about a constant battle with that voice in your head that'll sometimes question things, and it's the irrational, emotional part of the brain. And you, the human, has got a rational and 9 times out of 10 make the right decisions. And you're going to constantly have that battle in your head with emotion versus, the irrational emotional side versus the rational, the human, the sensible part of the body. And I think if I'd have been told at 12 that the quicker you learn to manage that, and the quicker or the better you learn to manage that from a young age, the more happier and more successful, and I don't mean successful in terms of millionaire or Olympic gold medal, just successful in life. And I think success in life is about being happy and pleased with what you've done and what you've achieved or how you've made others feel. And I think that constant battle in your head that I'm starting to learn about now, I'm old, if I'd have learned about it now and knowing that part of my brain was something that could be managed better, and the irrational and silly worries you get, especially as youngsters going into exams and things, you can only do your best. And I think as long as you try your best and prepare to be your best, then that's all you can give. And I think once you become satisfied with that, you become a lot happier and a lot more stable in the way you react to situations. And that might sound complicated there, but if you want to know more, read The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters.
Yeah, no, I've just ordered it, actually. I've just ordered that one, and then they do a child's version.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one called? Something about silence?
Yeah, the silent guides. Yeah.
That's literally just before you got on. I ordered all 3 of those books.
They are excellent books, and I think there's something that it was a tough read the first time I did it, but I think I'd recommend anyone to just pick it up, do short sections, work on those little bits, go back to it. It's not a novel, it's not a read, it's a working manual, I suppose. But I'm a big advocate of his work, and my athletes have responded really well to it. So